Hey up guys, I'm Mason. Welcome to the only place where you're going to get wrestling content from a blind person's point of view. This is Wrestling in the Dark, and on today's episode we're going to be talking about AEW's Dynamite Episode 3, where the tournament to crown the first ever All Elite Tag Team Champions continues, and both titles are on the line as Riho takes on Brit Baker and Chris Jericho takes on Darby Allin in a Philadelphia street fight. But on this channel it's just as much about the commentary as it is the in-ring action, and Excalibur currently holds a huge lead in the Wednesday Night Wars commentary league table, but can he keep that this week with some excellent commentary, or will he fall behind a little bit? Stick around to find out. It's pretty safe to say, I think, that I'm going to be in the minority for this episode because I wasn't a huge fan. Not just because the commentary wasn't great, which, to be honest, it wasn't. I didn't think it was, and multiple people have said to me that they didn't think it was. Even people who are fans of AEW have said, I don't think the commentary was that great. One of the great things about doing this podcast is people who have listened for a while have said, I've started noticing stuff about the commentary, and even they notice these days that it might not be as good for me with the offering that they have, and this week was one of those weeks. But it wasn't just that. I didn't completely like a few of the creative decisions, so let's get started with what got it started, and it's SCU, SoCal Uncensored versus the Best Friends in a tag team title tournament match. SCU are making their entrance and the Lucha Bros come out and attack them, and I actually do like that creative decision. I like that all the tag teams are really riled up. They really want to be tag team champions and they're willing to do whatever it takes to do that, and quite a few of the teams are doing heelish sort of things even though they're not heels. It's not really clear who sits on what side of the fence, and everyone's got their own motivations and they're all willing to do whatever it takes to be champion, and I do like that. It makes the tag team belts feel really important. So I do really like that Lucha Brothers decided, yeah, we're going to go out and attack SCU. They go out as SCU are making their entrance, and Phoenix drives Frankie Kazarian into the ring post, and Pentagon gives Christopher Daniels a pile driver on the steel ramp, which wipes him out. He can't compete anymore, so Scorpio Sky has to take his place, and that's when commentary starts hyping up the fact that Best Friends are going to have a different game on their hands now. They're going to have to deal differently with Scorpio than what they would have with Christopher Daniels. Kazarian starts things out for SCU, and Best Friends decide that their tactic is going to be working Kazarian's back because of the damage done by the ring post. Like that. Then we get a Scorpio Sky breaking up a near fall in the early moments. Chuck bites Scorpio's toes, which is like the second time that I've experienced that happening in wrestling this year, because Cassius Ohno did it to Matt Riddle in NXT earlier this year. Why are people obsessed with biting other wrestlers' toes? It's gross. Don't stop it. Then Chuck hits a double stomp. He hits an elbow strike, and he sends Kazarian into Trent, who gives him a spear. Kazarian's trying to fight his way out of enemy territory for a little bit, but the Best Friends end up hitting him with a double suplex for a near fall, which Kazarian kicks out of, and shortly thereafter gets a hot tag to Scorpio Sky, who JR plays up has not got the appropriate footwear for this because he wasn't prepared, so he's got one tennis shoe on and the other foot he's just got his sock on. Scorpio Sky hits a double stomp to Chuck. Kazarian comes over the top, hits a Hurricane Rana on Trent. Then Sky hits a Tope con Hilo, and at this point the crowd's going absolutely crazy. We get a leg drop by Kazarian, but shortly afterwards the Best Friends hit Kazarian with a soul food half and half combination that plants Kazarian, and the Best Friends go for a hug, but Scorpio Sky breaks that up. We get a rising knee strike and a sexy Chucky knee by Trent. a doomsday knee from the top, but Kazarian kicks out. Then Scorpio hits a move on the apron that they never called, wasn't sure what it was, and then shortly afterwards SCU pick up the win with a powerbomb dropkick combo, which sounds pretty cool. Which way did they do that, though? I would like to know that, actually, if anyone would be bothered to say that in the comments. Was it that they did the powerbomb and the dropkick was delivered to the back of the head, or was it like a up in the powerbomb position and they dropkick them from the front? I'm quite interested, actually. Either way, it sounds pretty cool, so that's fine. But I'm not sure how I feel about SCU picking up the win here. I like SCU, and I actually quite like the act that they've got going on. I've got as much exposure to both of these teams as I have for the other one, because I literally only know what I've seen from AEW, and I do like what I've seen from both. I'd quite enjoyed Best Friends on the BTE mailbag recently. That was pretty funny, and I'm just not sure what I think, especially considering that Kazarian and Daniels got attacked beforehand. You know, Daniels was suffering the effects of that and got taken out of the match, which I feel like should have affected the other two in terms of, oh, is he going to be okay, worrying about him, etc. So I feel like that should have affected the performance, as well as Kazarian being beat up as well. I thought Best Friends were going to go further. I guess I sort of wanted them to, and it just left me feeling a bit like, oh, a bit disappointed, I guess. I thought that once SCU had been attacked by the Lucha Brothers, I thought, okay, so the Lucha Bros and SCU are going to like branch off and have another rivalry of their own, but it didn't work out like that. The SCU just picked up the win, which is great. I'm looking forward to seeing probably them get into the actual final, so we'll see. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with this match. I had a few notes down, but there was definitely points in this match where I was like, I wish they were saying something right now. Next up is a boring squash match. It's Santana and Ortiz taking on someone. They didn't really even give them an introduction. The only notes that I have in this is a diving back elbow from one of them as they tag the other. The commentary screams something. They just scream, and JR's like, oh, I got a kick out of that. And then Santana gets them up for their finisher, and they win. And it's a squash match, and I just wasn't really interested. I'm not interested in seeing these sorts of squash matches. I understand that they're trying to introduce these new badass heels, but nothing that a little 5-minute match couldn't have actually succeeded in. Maybe this was 5 minutes, I don't know. I wasn't interested, and I'm going to move on from it. They had a promo afterwards. Jericho was like, oh, they'd just done what they're always going to do. They're pit bulls, and they want to beat up the Young Bucks and challenge the Young Bucks to a match at Full Gear, which should be pretty fun. I'm actually quite looking forward to that one. If I can keep up with it, it should be pretty good, and I think I should be able to keep up with it just because I'm expecting a brawling style, but then I've never seen Santana and Ortiz in action, really, so I don't know. They could be just as fast as the Young Bucks are, which, if they are, is a bad thing for me, because I'm not going to be able to keep up with that match. This promo, though, Jericho's talking, and I don't know which member it was, but just one of Santana or Ortiz just in the background just going, the best, we're the best, over and over again. It was so goddamn annoying. A cool video package next. I say cool like that because it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it was well produced and it was very, very interesting. On the other hand, it was about Cody, and I'm sort of getting sick of Cody getting treated like this. I wanted to watch AEW to see the younger guys get put over, and I know to do that you've got to get put over these EVPs, but it just sort of feels frustrating. This whole video package was just like, look at how cool and awesome Cody is, and he's a great wrestler, and he's just so cool and edgy. Brandy's talking to him about corporate things, but he's not really listening, and then he drives away, and then we have shots of JR talking and MJF and Brandy and his his mom and DDP, and they all talk about the fact that Brandy says that she knew that they were going to lose him for a little while because he's going to be so invested, because he's so passionate and edgy. And she says as soon as they knew that he was going to face Jericho, they knew that they were going to lose him for a little bit. His mum talks about the passion that he has. DDP talks about how important winning the first world championship is. MJF talks about how awesome Cody is. JR says that Cody's going to be focused on corporate things while Chris Jericho's just focused on beating him up. And just the whole time I'm just like, God, I wish that this was for someone else. Like, it's such a cool video package, and I just wish that they were doing this a little bit more for the guys that you don't know as much. Like, I know who Cody is. He's already a big name. You don't need to sell me on Jericho versus Cody, but I guess they're not just going after me. I think that I would have been less frustrated by it if it hadn't have led straight into the women's championship match. Like, had this been later on in the show, or just on another show leading up to the pay-per-view, I don't know. I just feel like it was poorly placed when it's right in front of the women's championship match, and you literally launch into that women's title match with no fanfare. It doesn't feel important. You're not doing a video package for Brit Baker and how cool and awesome and edgy she is, and that's what I feel like they should have been doing when there was a women's title match coming up. But yeah, let's get to that and talk about Riho versus Brit Baker. The story of Riho's life, ladies and gentlemen, having to fight a much bigger opponent. That's a quote. Then they tell us that Paul Turner is the official, and then we get Brit Baker is not a big woman by any means, but she's definitely bigger than Riho. Then it's nice arm drag there from JR, and I'm like, from who? If you're going to call the minutiae, if you're going to tell us about an arm drag, tell us who did it. It just frustrates me so much when that happens. Then we get signs of frustration here by Brit Baker. Brit goes for the lockjaw, but no dice. Then we get Paul Turner shouting, "Watch the hair, Baker!" And I was like, thanks, Paul, you actually did your job there, which actually told me which was going on. It's not even his job to tell me what's going on, but none of the commentary did, so thanks there, Paul Turner. Then Riho's firing off elbows, and she goes for a diving cross body, but Baker rolls through for the near fall. Riho hits a drop kick, and that gets Brit Baker right in the face. The women's champ then gets a double stomp, and she goes up to the top rope, tries for another one, but Brit Baker manages to avoid that. Baker gets a single-legged drop kick for a near fall, and commentary is like, I really thought that the size difference would matter in that pinning predicament. A swinging fisherman's neck breaker gets the near fall, as does a bridging Northern Lights suplex. Really think that the commentary at this point were just letting me know what was happening with the near falls, just because of how many I'm reading in my notes. Baker gets Riho in an ankle lock, but Riho manages to counter and hits a big double stomp. Then someone, I sort of assumed that it was Riho, but I guess it could have been either of them, hits a ripcord clothesline. Sorry, my brain just went absolutely it just went absolutely blank there, and still sort of is. To get myself back on track. Yeah, we get the ripcord, and I just don't really know who it was from. And then Baker's looking for the lockjaw. Riho's fighting. She manages to get the lockjaw in for a little minute, but Riho manages to counter and gets a pin for the win. And I just really didn't feel this one. They didn't make it feel special, though. They didn't try to make me feel it either. Commentary was barely even trying. Like, in the early moments, it was non-existent. In the later moments, it was basically just on the near falls. There was so much talk about Riho's size again. There was nothing about how dangerous Brit Baker was. We didn't get any championship fanfare like we did with Chris Jericho later on, with the special announcement that they do, the in-ring announcing of the the championship and the challenger. They went straight from the Cody video package that was just like, how cool and edgy is Cody, and then just go straight into this women's title match without making it feel special at all. And then the commentary didn't even try, and it was just a lame match, to be honest, in my opinion. It really didn't land with me. And now it's time for what was probably the best part of the show. It's the Lucha Bros versus the Jurassic Express. Luchasaurus out of this match with a non-contact thigh injury that we later learned was a hamstring injury. Let's get through to this then. So, in the early moments, both members of Jurassic Express hit DDTs. Jungle Boy opens the rope so that Marco Stunt can do a suicide dive, and then Jungle Boy himself hits a moonsault as well. I really liked that bit, thought that it started the match off really nicely. Excalibur called it pretty well. Then we get a Enziguri into an arm drag by Rey Fenix and a pump handle driver on Marco Stunt, but he kicks out. Then commentary decides to infuriate me just that little bit more by saying that the only reason that Marco Stunt kicked out of that is that he's so small that the Lucha Brother mustn't have had the cover in properly. Like, he didn't know how to cover him because he's so small, and it's just, this argument about the size thing is just doing my head in. We go to the break, we come back, and the commentary tells us that Lucha Bros have mauled Jurassic Express during the break. Jungle Boy ducks a lariat and hits a rising elbow strike. He then hits a back-flipping knee strike, and then there's a 450 splash and a shooting star press for the near fall. I really like the dynamic that Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy have got, just both of them sort of barreling round, doing moves, sort of already got combos going on. I really like that. In reviews that I've listened to, people have talked about how this match was long, and I was expecting more notes, but I've just gone and looked back, and the only notes that I've got left is Pentagon hitting a destroyer, getting his arm breaker thing, and Lucha Bros hitting their double stomp pile driver combination for the win. And I literally so shocked going back to it because everyone was like, this is so long. And I don't doubt that it was a long match, but I remember. It's sort of tricky because it takes me a few days to get my notes in order and think about what I want to say. But at the same time, as the distance comes between me and watching it, I sort of forget what I felt like while I was watching it, and now I remember why I was so frustrated, because we got this awesome match, which the notes that I got were pretty cool. I did enjoy the bits that they gave us, but I know that there was parts of this match where I was just like, there's nothing going on here. The commentary's just not saying anything, and it really does kill my enjoyment of it, because I don't like only knowing parts of a match, because it's like being able to look at half of a puzzle. It's like, I want to know what the other half of the puzzle is, please. Next up, it's a sort of thrown together tag match. It's John Moxley and the Bastard Pac versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. And I guess I'm being a little bit harsh on this show now, just because how frustrating I found it, but I did find this a little bit of a thrown together tag team on a show where we had lots of things that I didn't like. So in the early moments, Kenny and Mox are in. Mox is hitting hammer fists and Omega's trying to block. Pac tags himself in. Kenny goes over the top and hits, quote, a crusher of some sort. Then Mox tags himself in. Kenny's hitting chops. He hits the ropes, goes for Moxley, but Moxley hits a kitchen sink, whatever that means. Just, like, Moxley with the kitchen sink. Like, what? Either that's a move, and it's a move that's called the kitchen sink, which I doubt, because that's not cool enough to be a Mox thing, or you just can't be bothered to say what he actually did, and it's like, oh, everything in the kitchen sink. That's not commentary. Tell me what happened. Commentary goes, "Oh, you cannot survive that." And then we get a commercial break. When they come back from commercial, Pac and Mox have been working well as a team, which they weren't before. I'm like, seriously? You're going to have them not work well as a team before the commercial break, and then have them work well afterwards, and put the stupid bit where they start working well as a team, put that in the commercial break in the little picture-in-picture thing. Yeah, okay, that's good. Tell the story during commercials. Thanks very much for that. Paige hits a big lariat. Tony actually does some commentary and says that he hit with his bicep, which would hurt more apparently because there's more muscle there. That does actually make sense. Then we get rolls through. Pat cannot escape, whatever that means. And then we get 2 or 3 Snapdragon suplexes to Moxley. I'm like, why was there no cover after that? Psychology of the match. There should have been a cover after that. That's a big spot, a big move, 2 or 3 of them in a row. There should have been a near fall there. I don't get why there wasn't. Now, if someone stopped Omega from going for the near fall, commentary should have said that. If not, they should have played up the fact that he didn't go for the cover and that was for a reason, but it didn't factor into the story, so it was just pointless and there should have been a cover there. Omega hits a tope con hilo and lands on his feet. Paige hits a moonsault and a big AEW chant. There's a sequence with a powerbomb and a few other moves that I couldn't get down that Moxley broke up with a dropkick. Pac gets driven into the barricade, and we get this strike exchange between Omega and Moxley, where the crowd gets louder and louder each time they hit each other, but Moxley comes out of that one with the upper hand. After that, it kind of breaks down. Stuff with barbed wire around it comes out, and I'm not sure who went for it first, Omega or Moxley. Either way, Pac is like, no, I don't want to lose by DQ, starts talking shit to Moxley. Moxley hits him with a paradigm shift and walks off. Then we get a buckshot lariat, a V-trigger, and a deadeye, and Pac is pinned. So, Pac gets his first loss after coming in and looking really, really good. Granted, it was in tag team action and his partner turned on him, but he still takes a loss there, which I'm not particularly happy about as a fan of that. The match itself wasn't called that great and really didn't keep my attention, which is sort of criminal because I really enjoy Moxley and Pac, and I'm getting into Omega, and I'm not that much for Hangman Page. I still haven't really found any connection to him yet, but at least Moxley and Pac I actually really enjoy, and I'm definitely getting into Omega. So the fact that I didn't enjoy this is just, I think it's purely the commentary's fault. And now let's get to something that isn't commentary's fault. Now it's the main event, the title match between Chris Jericho and Darby Allin for the AEW Championship in a Philadelphia street fight. I sort of lied. I said that this wasn't commentary's fault, and it's not completely commentary's fault because I didn't like the finish of this match, but there wasn't a lot of great commentary in this either. Now, I don't mind the fact that they didn't do the title announcements before the women's match if they didn't do it before this one, but they did. They give Chris Jericho his big pomp and circumstance entrance. They gave him the in this corner entrance, and they didn't give it to Riho and Brit Baker, and that just sort of annoys the hell out of me. At least commentary did point out that Chris Jericho had got face paint on, but they talk about the fact that he's adopting the Painmaker persona, and he's also trying to point to Darby Allin that putting face paint on proves nothing. You can't do both of those at once, just so you know. You can't put face paint on and say that it adopts a persona, but also prove that paint does nothing. Commentary called the beginning of this match great. Not. We get Darby Allin coming out of the gate, not wasting any time, peppering Chris Jericho with shots. Darby Allin is outpacing Chris Jericho. Oh wow, great strategy. You can't prepare for a guy like Darby Allin. Jericho gets a toe kick to the sternum of Darby Allin. Then we get Darby sent sternum first and Jericho follows him in. Then we get Darby paintbrushing Chris Jericho. Darby hits a Yoshi tonic for a near fall, then something happens to his knee, not quite sure what, they just reacted like, oh, his knee, and then they were like, this one could be over, and it goes into the commercial break, comes back, and commentary's putting over the fact that Darby's bleeding from the back of the head and the forehead, and I'm like, might want to have told us why, because so far, the only thing that I know that Jericho has done is a toe kick to the sternum and sent him presumably into the turnbuckle. Other than that, you haven't really told me anything, so why is he bleeding? Either you've told the story during the commercial again, or you've missed out the beats in the match and not told us why. Darby goes after Jericho with a kendo stick. He tries for the Fujiwara armbar and then tries to transition into a triangle sleeper, but Jericho counters and gets the walls. Once Darby's broken out, he goes for a diving crossbody for a near fall. Then we get double knees, and I'm like, from who? And then we get a chop noise, and Tony's just like, ooh lordy. Jericho goes for a long dart, but Darby manages to counter into a stunner. We get a lion tamer, but Darby manages to get to the ropes. And then Jericho goes and gets tape, and he hog ties Darby Allin, who then proceeds to hit a lion salt and a tope con hilo with his arms behind his back. Darby gets a near fall from a move that I didn't quite catch. We get a nasty powerbomb onto a skateboard spot, which I imagine hurts, but probably doesn't hurt as much as other things that Darby's had done to him. Darby gets a dropkick right to the face of Chris Jericho, goes up to the top, and he's going to try for the coffin drop, but Swagger interrupts and it distracts Darby. Darby is distracted and Jericho gets the walls in for the win. So Jericho is becoming a chicken shit heel. Why? Oh my god, I was so annoyed afterwards, and I'm sort of getting back annoyed thinking about it now. This was ridiculous. Like, I know that you want to put over the talent as being cool and being able to do stuff that other people can't do and all of these spectacular things that they have do. Darby pulling off moves while he's got his arms tied behind his back is great. That's fine. It's a fun spectacle. The fact that he can still do all of that is really, really impressive. But it's Chris Jericho, and Darby shouldn't have stood a chance against Chris Jericho. Okay, yeah, he gets his hits in, gets his shit in, but eventually Jericho should go back and just win. He doesn't need the inner circle for this, and this is a bad sign because it marks the start of a chicken shit run for Chris Jericho, where it's going to be either Sammy Guevara, Santana and Ortiz, or Swagger coming and making an absolute mess of things by coming and interfering, and just, oh man, I get it against Cody or something like that in a few weeks, but just against Darby, it's just like, I don't want Chris Jericho to be a chicken shit heel. I like the fact that he's veteran Chris Jericho who can beat most people. He didn't need to cheat to beat Hangman Paige, and I'm not sure that Darby's supposed to be any better than Paige is. And the fact that it was the fact that he taps out, it's like, he's supposed to be this guy that doesn't care what happens to his body, that can go through any pain, and it's like, then he gets put in the walls of Jericho and taps out. And I just feel like he could have gone for, he misses the coffin drop, or Jericho hits him with a backstabber, or just anything, even just a roll up would have been better, of just like, oh, Darby was trying to show off too much, but Jericho managed to roll him up there. Anything would have been better than Jericho needing people to distract Darby. It really, really did my head in, I'm not gonna lie. So all in all, my thoughts on this show are this. We had two decent tag matches that the commentary let down, the first of which I didn't agree with the finish of. A squash match in a company that I didn't expect to see squash matches in. A thrown together tag match. A hype package for a for an executive member of the of the of the corporate team, basically just a Triple H hype package is basically what it was. We got that video package, we got a women's title match that they didn't put any funfare into, we got that thrown together tag match, and that horrible main event which just made Chris Jericho look terrible. So this show, it left a really bitter taste in my mouth last week, and now going back over it, it's just, I'm like, okay, they better do better this week, because the entire time I was just thinking, I wish I could not be watching this right now. I wonder what's going on NXT. I wonder whether that'll be any good. And this show to me was it was a big step down from what I thought that they could do, or what they would be doing. And like I say, squash matches, thrown together tag matches, video packages for corporate people. I really, really wasn't a fan of it, and the commentary really didn't help with that. I think maybe I would have been a little bit less harsh had the commentary been better, but they really, really weren't, and that's a shame, because this commentary team was supposed to be the elite commentary team. They were supposed to be that much better, and Excalibur can do it. Excalibur started off his run with this. He started off his run on Dynamite with 8 points, bringing himself into a massive lead on the WNCW league table. But he's just not trying now. Now that everything isn't at stake, he's just not trying, and it's bumming me out, and it's making me feel a little bit better towards AEW, and then that magnifies the fact that I don't like some of the creative decisions. So yeah, like I said, probably in the minority for this one, but I really didn't enjoy it. I give it a 3 out of 6 at the most. If you've enjoyed this episode, click that like button, let me know, and if you want to share your thoughts on Dynamite or WITD, you know where the comment section is, or you can follow me on Twitter at Mason_WITD, or join the Discord server, the link for which will be in the description. I'm off, guys, and you should have a good one.